Welcome back to the God's Vibes podcast. I have a special treat for you today. I was able to sit down and interview a beautiful woman of God, really a Renaissance woman in many ways, who vulnerably shares her journey with God, really her hunger for God that she didn't even know was a hunger for Him initially, that turned into this beautiful, radical, wild ride with Him, where she literally is able to bring healthy nutrition to her family, nourish and care for her family in so many epic and profound ways, and really serve in all of these areas that she's called to. So, if you are on a dynamic journey with God and sometimes that gives you some questions, this is definitely an episode for you. Or even if you sense that you've looked for healing in a lot of places and are sensing that there could be healing in food and nutrition, this definitely is an episode for you. So without further ado, here's my friend, Stephanie Rounds. Hello, friend. I'm so excited to have you here. I know that we've been dreaming about this for a minute and talking about it for a second, but I feel like you have so much value to share today. I know a lot of people are on different journeys with God, and what you have to share will totally bless them. So tell the peeps who you are.
Hi. Yeah, no, it's been fun. It's been a little scary to talk about it because you don't really know how people are going to receive you, and you're like, I'm being very vulnerable right now, so I feel a little naked. But
we go vulnerable and deep over here.
Yeah. Which honestly, when you guys get to know me a little bit better, you'll know that that's just who I am.
Yeah.
I have the infamous name of Wrecking Ball for a reason. That's my nickname that some people have given me because I just tend to wreck through walls and get down to the truth and the vulnerability of people, because that's where the real gold is. I don't do what is it, like short shop talk. I don't do that. It doesn't flow well for me. But my name is Stephanie Rounds, and I am a mother of four, a wife of Daniel Rounds for 15 years, and a consummate cellist, professional baker, pastry artist, and nutritionist, and finder of people. So that's just finder of people. That's what I do for a career right now, and I'm an executive recruiter.
Wow.
So that's just my little background. But yeah, I'll share whatever you want, however you want.
Yeah, so exciting. I think something that would be, we're going to drift into nutrition today, but I think what's helpful to know is a little bit about your journey with God. So just your experience entirely, like how you came to know God, relationship with God now, how that changes your life. I think it's so helpful to hear that supernatural is normal. That's not something that we're just like reaching to or trying to grab or like figure out, or it's super weird. It's like, it's normal. That should be every day. So help people understand your story a little bit.
Yeah. So, oh gosh, the very, very beginning is I didn't really grow up in a strong Christian family. Like that just wasn't it. We were weekend Christian people that would go on major holidays, and my mom would dress us up, my sisters and I, in like really frou-frou little outfits. And
were you in choir?
No.
Okay.
I mean, in school, yes, but in church, no. I mean, didn't really have it the center of our house, wasn't really the main thing. I grew up in an Eastern European household. My grandparents immigrated here from Czechoslovakia. So, I mean, it was just a normal 80s, 90s house that you grew up in. But I always had these experiences, dreamt a lot when I was a kid, very vivid dreams. I would also have what a lot of people call deja vu all the time. I'm like, I've been here before. I knew this happened. I've seen this before. Like all these different things that have fallen into place. And I just thought it was normal. It just happened all the time. And I would say, hey, this is going to happen. Or I saw this, did it already happen? And people were like, no. And then it would happen. And I'm like, well, that was weird, but that's pretty normal for me. So I guess I'm just a weirdo.
Peculiar, I think, is what the Bible calls it.
Yeah, right. But I didn't have a lot of friends. I just felt very awkward in school, but I was always drawn to the outcast, and they all would end up I always kind of wanted to always bring everybody together. Well, junior high is when I had a friend that was like, hey, let's go to this place called, it was a youth group, but it called Young Life. So it wasn't affiliated with any church. It was very non-denominational, like place that people got together at a person's house and like played games and like sang, and then somebody would preach. And I was like, well, cool, we'll just go and hang out. Now, my heart was still tender because again, I wasn't unfamiliar with church, but it wasn't like a normal thing for me.
Yeah.
Um, and so I would go frequently. And then there was one time when I went to camp and I just felt like this tug at my heart. And I'm like, I don't know what this is. And I just started crying at, like around the campsite one day. And they're like, if anybody wants to know Jesus, stand up and come forward. And I literally felt my body just get up and go. And I'm like, what am I doing? I'm like, why am I standing up? Like it was almost like an out of body experience, but it's
Yeah.
just, I was like, okay, I guess I'm going. And then that was my first experience with the Lord. And so, young, sixth grade, like sixth, seventh
Wow.
grade,
Yeah.
didn't really know, still like hang out with those kids, still like kind of on the outside, looking in,
Yeah.
really still wanting to be popular, but not really popular, but quiet, still bringing in all the people. My house would still be the house where all the kids came and hung out.
Yeah.
I found that everybody felt comfortable around me, just because I saw people for who they were and not what they were meant to, like what other people put on top of them. I saw them how they were meant to be as the person they were. So it was very easy for me to just be around people and make them feel like they were loved.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, kind of just floated back and forth, whatever. High school rolls around, whatever, kind of involved, kind of not with God. And there was a moment though that I remember, I think it was my junior year of high school. And I was really having a hard time. I'm like, you know what, God? And I went to a performing arts high school for cello. So you got to get the scene right. So I'm in Las Vegas. This is where I was born and raised. At a performing arts high school where all the weirdos are, right?
Yeah.
Like, but the funny thing about that school is there's no cliques. Everybody's a weirdo and you're
Like
accepted
if
for
you
being
moved
a
to Texas
weirdo.
to be a weirdo. I love that you had a whole school.
Our whole school, I mean, you hung out with the people that you were majoring with. So I was majoring in orchestra,
Oh,
but
wow.
everybody was friends with everybody and there wasn't any weird fights, wasn't any weird other thing like that was going on at the normal high schools around city.
Yeah.
So it was very interesting how I was brought there because I wasn't going to go. One of my friends applied and auditioned and got in because it was a magnet school. My mom's like, well, you're going to audition. If you get in, you're going. I'm like, I don't want to do that. She goes, well, you don't have a choice. And I'm like, well, I'm a people pleaser. So, okay, I'm going to do what you told me to do at the
Yes,
time.
I'm going.
Like I was terrified of my parents at the time, to be really honest. So I'm just like, okay, I'll just go. Applied, got in. I mean, auditioned, got in. And one of the best decisions I ever had in my life, to be honest, because you felt free to be who you were and to
I love
explore
that. 'Cause
all
normally,
these
all of
different
those things
things.
too are on like the periphery of your life, if at all. So a lot of times you don't even get access to that. So that's so awesome.
No, and this one
Full
was
experience.
it was full experience. And the wild thing about that school is that magnet schools, you have to hold a certain GPA
Yeah.
to stay there. And if you don't and you fall below, you get kicked out back to your zone school and you're not allowed back in. So, I mean, you have to be held to a higher standard there anyway to show
Yeah.
that that you want to be a part of this.
Yeah.
So, excuse me, I found a group of friends who became really close with, and they were involved with church.
Okay.
They were involved with youth groups and everything. And I was like, okay, I guess we're doing this. Like, I'm like, well, I feel comfortable. Like, and I know Jesus. I know who he is. I know the Bible. Like, I read it. Like I'm supposed to because I go to a non-denominational, like big seeker-friendly church. Cool.
Yeah.
But there was always something in my heart that didn't feel fulfilled, that didn't feel full. Like it always felt like there was a hole in there. And I know you hear people say that a lot, but when you actually feel it, like there's something there, like an aching, like there's something more. There
Yeah.
has to be something more. I have all these experiences that I'm still experiencing, very vivid dreams. I'm still experiencing these deja vu moments. Um, I'm like, there has to be something more. And the only thing I can think of is when I'm reading the Bible and these things are happening to these people, that this has to be something to do with Jesus. So I remember this moment in my junior year of high school going, I don't know if I believe in God. Like I just don't. I don't know if he's real. Like all these other people are saying, like he's just a figment of my imagination to make me feel better, all these things. And all of a sudden I hear this audible voice, like
Yeah.
I know it wasn't outside of me, but I heard it go, well, if you didn't believe in me, you wouldn't be questioning if I was real. And I'm like, well then, That, and I broke down bawling in the middle of the lunchroom in high school because I heard this voice go, well, if I wasn't real, you wouldn't be questioning if I was real. And I'm like, holy moly. And something just in me shifted. Now my actions haven't changed from being like a normal teenage girl in a high school. I didn't party, I didn't smoke, I didn't do drugs, I didn't do any of that stuff. Like
Yeah.
I watched my sisters go down that road, and me being who I was as a people pleaser, too afraid of my parents and what they were going to do, watching other people going, you're dumb. I'm going to learn from your mistakes. I'm not going to do that. Like, there was no point to it. In my mind, I'm like, why would I do that? And I created this whole scenario in me going, well, if I do that, then I could like get pregnant, or I could do something and then my whole life would be ruined and then I wouldn't know what to do. And I decided to take the fear road of it and
Yeah.
keep myself in that bubble to prevent me from doing really stupid choices, which worked at the time.
Yeah.
I mean, I stayed out of trouble a lot. I mean, the worst thing I did was get piercings and tattoos. And I
Yeah.
never, like, that's the worst thing that happened. And my parents took me to go do those things. Like, well, if you're going to do it, we'll just take you to do it. Like, my house, there was nothing taboo.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, great. That's all I want to do. So, there, that happened. And so it kind of grew like that wandering, and that, well, there has to be something more, to this Jesus that I'm getting to know
Yep.
than what I'm experiencing. Like, so there's something that's just not lining up with my experiences and truth of what I know can happen. And so I had these opportunities to go to certain colleges. I decided I wanted to get to know God better, because I felt that hole being filled from when I would spend time in these pockets of Christian people experiencing God in these ways and asking questions. Is he real? If he is, then what about this, and this? What about these healing miracles? What about people's like limbs growing out? What about like hearing his voice? What about seeing these things and then them happening? So the best way I thought I could study that was go to a Christian college. So
Yeah.
I chose to go to Vanguard. I got a really good scholarship on cello. I ended up going as a business and biblical major, but I went on a music and academic scholarship because they didn't have a cellist in their orchestra. So I actually helped build their cello section from just me to about 7 by the time I left. So that was fun. That was a whole nother little story. But freshman year of college, I was roommates. Actually, it was the summer after freshman, so going into my sophomore year. I was roommates with a girl who was from Australia and knew Hillsong. And I'm like, I don't know who Hillsong is. Like, I'm searching all these churches down in Southern California with her. I'm like, these are very weird. I'm not used to this because I'm used to seeker friendly, very surfacey, and they're like going after very passionate crying. And I'm like, something's happening here. And I didn't know what it was, but I was drawn to it. I'm like, I actually feel normal. Like, I feel like this is normal to me. This feels normal. Because I remember going to my other church, I would be the only one standing up, put my hands up, like actually really worshiping God. And I'm like, why is nobody else doing this? This is weird. Like, it was something just felt off. I'm like, I don't really feel like I belong here because there's so much in me that needs to feel like I need to express to this person, because I'm a very expressive, emotional person on that aspect. I'm like, I feel like this is not giving me the availability to do this. So one day she looks at me, she goes, hey, let's go to a prayer room on the campus at Vanguard. And I'm like, okay, I'll just come with you because I have nothing better to do on a Friday night. And we go there, and there's probably about 7 of us, and a boy was playing piano, and they were worshiping and praying. And all of a sudden I start getting hot, and I start like shaking a little bit, and I'm like, what is happening? And he goes, okay, I'm going to pray. And then if none of you have ever received the Holy Spirit, you're going to receive them, and you're going to start speaking a different language. I'm like, okay, I've really entered the twilight zone. This is really weird. Like, okay, whatever. But part of me was like, yeah, but you've been asking these weird questions. Like, you want to experience something weird? And I'm like, I guess, like, I don't know. I'm up for whatever. So, I mean, if it's real, it's real. If it's not, then cool, I'll just walk away. Within seconds, I was thrown on the floor on my face. I started like shaking, and this language started coming out of my mouth, like loud sobs. And I'm like, what is happening? I couldn't stop myself. I'm like, what is happening? And these people, like my roommate is sitting over there just like praying and laughing and like laying her hands on me. And I'm just like, what is happening? And it's just coming out nonstop. I'm like, oh my gosh, you're really real. Like this is for real stuff. Like when I read it in the books of Acts, this is not fake. Like people just acting crazy. It's actually really happening. And something clicked after that. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm never gonna be the same. I'm never gonna be, I mean, I wasn't really cool to begin with, but like something in me goes, no, this just I felt okay in my weirdness. I felt okay in my, you're a freak. Like you don't fit in ness. Like I felt okay in that spot. Finally, something just clicked. I'm like, oh my gosh. And then the boy who was playing piano turned around and I received what's called my first inspired or prophetic word, where it's like you hear from God and you just tell this person what God's heart is for them, and pretty much spoke these things of my my disjointed relationship with my mother that was very unhealthy, very off, all these other questions that I've been having about myself as a person and what was comfortable, what wasn't, the things that I understood, the things I didn't, and reading what my thoughts were, reading my history, reading all these inner turmoil feelings that you have, right? And it never has, I've never experienced that before in my life. I'm like, who's telling you this? How do you know? You've never met me ever in your life. And I realized,
my mail?
right, that's right. Like, yeah, reading my mail. And I'm like, well, obviously this has to be God, because I have similar situations for other people. Like I just will look at somebody and I'll just know something about them, but I won't know them. And I'll talk to them and be like, hey, how about, it'll be a conversation. I don't mind going up to people and talking to them. I'm a really big people person. And I would have these conversations with them and they'd be like, how do you know that? I'm like, I don't know. I just know that. I don't know. And I realized, oh my gosh, that's God giving me these heart moments for these people, these mind moments for these people. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is really real. And he started sharing this prophetic word with me, this God moment word with me. And telling me about how a relationship with my mom was going to be restored, my health was going to be restored, all these things. And I'm just like messed up to the max.
In college at this point, right?
I'm in college. I'm like a freshman, sophomore in college. This is like 2005, 2006.
Insane. Okay.
Yeah. So that really marked me and changed me from that moment on. I just never went back. And that hunger, that ache in my heart and my gut wasn't necessarily soothed, but it felt like it changed from an ache to a burning, insatiable feeling that I'm like, I need this. I can't get enough of it. There's a hunger and a thirst that just can't be satisfied. And it gets deeper and bigger the more I go into like knowing God and into his presence and worshiping and hearing him. And that never changed me. But that was when my health started taking a turn for the worst.
Okay. Yeah. So that was like the interesting part, because I feel like not that this is everybody's journey or how it always happens, but it seems like when you first start building a relationship with God, it's almost like you experience him everywhere. Like his presence is really tangible. You keep getting all these God moments, having these encounters, and you're like, oh my gosh, you know what I mean? Like it's exciting all the time. Then it's like, where are you? Like, can I even hear you? Or like, I'm going through something really hard. Like, what happened? Like we were so close. Now it's like, where are you? You know what I mean? So like, it sounds like that happened in your journey too, where you had these epic experiences that felt very almost like out of body kind of, because it was like you were searching, and then you got thrown into it. Do you know what I mean? You just encountered it on like a whole new level that you couldn't have anticipated. And then it's like almost that is not the same. And now you're struggling. So talk to me about that and where God was in that.
Yeah. So going back to that moment, I was in the middle of dealing with my parents getting divorced. So really, really messy situation. And unfortunately, my older sister and I were the ones to find out and tell my mom, like to confirm it. That was about junior year of high school. And so that was kind of where I was going in that turmoil, going into college, trying to figure out what I was going to do. And so the only thing I was convinced that I lived a lie, because my parents were super affectionate around me and my sisters, but I would always hear them fighting. There was always a disconnect. They were workaholics. Because, 80s and 90s, it's just what it was. You chased that dollar to be able to survive. And we had a bigger family with like 3 girls, which was big for that time. And my grandparents lived with us. And so there is just this thing where I'm like, I lived a lie. My whole family was a lie, affection and love. And what that really looks like was like, so there's this thing. I'm like, I don't even know what this looks like at all anymore.
Yeah.
And I can't control any of it. So I went into anorexia.
Mm.
And my version of that was I would literally measure everything out to the teaspoon.
Yes.
And then I would go Pilates for an hour, hour and a half, and I would go running, and I would just exercise nonstop. That was my form of control. I didn't have control with anything else, so I needed to control something.
Yeah. And everything
And
I imagine felt out of control at that time, because this is when you were in high school.
so my parents, I found out about my father having an affair on my mother, and my mother just being controlling, all that stuff that happened in high school.
Okay.
And they filed for a divorce around junior, senior year of high school and
This
finalized
is
it.
like identity time, figuring
Yeah.
out who you are.
Yeah.
God's almost getting dropped right straight into relationship with you, or vice versa.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I was in a deep relationship with my best friend, like at the time. He and I were super close. Convinced I was going to spend the rest of my life with him. Like I just, looking back on it, he was also coming out of a very abusive like family situation too. So it's like we found each other and we just found solace in brokenness with each other, and never did anything sexual, nothing like that, but we were super close emotionally.
Yeah.
And so that was hard as well,
Yeah.
being away from my only source of like stability. And he lived in Vegas.
Home, right? Like
Yeah.
your home
Yeah.
base
Yeah,
uprooting.
he lived in Vegas and I lived in Southern California. I mean, we would visit each other all the time, but there was so much of me like, well, this is what I thought love looked like, what I thought family looked like, and now it doesn't. I don't understand what's happening. I mean, God, I'm learning you and I'm learning these really amazing physical things that are happening, but this emotional thing inside of me, I don't see where you fit. I don't see where you can make this better. My parents are separated. I don't know where I'm going to go. And so I just did what I thought I could do. And I'm like, well, nobody else is going to be supporting me. So I support myself and I'll just control it all. And decided to just take it all up on my own. Still walk through like believing God for all the crazy, awesome things, like the bigger things, but not the practical things. Practical things I could take care of. So what's the point in relying on a father who's going to love you and support you, Holy Spirit, a mother figure who's going to nurture you and take care of you.
And
Like,
that was also a deep, deep wound that you had too.
Yeah.
Why would I even rely on a father since he wasn't reliable?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Right?
I mean, Jesus was easy for me to confide in because I'm like, oh, you're like my best friend, and that's easy for me to relate to. So other aspects of God just weren't easy.
Yeah.
So my mom, I came home one summer. I had to get my wisdom teeth taken out, but she saw how sick I was getting. I lost my period for 9 months. I've never had sex before in my life.
And this is while you were in college.
This is why I was in Vanguard. I am 5'6", very athletic build, at a healthy weight, between 135, 130 pounds. I was 100 pounds, wore a size 0 in Abercrombie and Fitch, very unhealthy, right? Didn't see it. I was just like, well, this is weird. But my mom's like, we're done, and pulled me out of college and brought me home. She was going through her own thing. My younger sister got super rebellious. It was just a really hot mess. And we left Vegas. I moved back to Vegas, left Vanguard during my sophomore year of high school. Sophomore year of college. Went back to Vegas and then left there. And my mom decided, I'm selling my house here. We're going to move up to Cedar City, Utah. Why there? God knows why. I'm just like, we're leaving where to go where?
Right.
Because I don't do that. I don't do snow. I don't do weird, small, cliquey Mormon towns or any weird, cliquey towns. Like, I just don't do that. Do you see me? I have piercings and tattoos, and I like to cuss every now and then. Like, this is not where I'm going to fit.
Yeah.
So But I was so sick and mentally tired at that point and angry that I was just like, whatever, whatever. I have no control over this because you guys are the ones that were feeding my fund for Vanguard, and now I don't have money for that. So I have to leave.
Yeah.
So followed her up there. My dad stayed in Vegas, followed my mom and my younger sister up to Cedar City, and went on a huge healing journey. The first real like part of my separation from everything that I knew to get better.
Where do you
The
feel like God was in that time? Could you tell?
you know, I was still in my Bible. I was still listening to worship music, praying, all the things. So I knew he was there. I just wasn't ready to give up control of something because I didn't feel like I could trust. And I don't think I could put words to it at the time because it felt very taboo to say, God, I don't trust you. There's that fear that was like, well, God is supposed to be all powerful, all knowing, like perfect. I can't tell this perfect thing that I don't trust him.
Totally.
And I don't want his help. Like I feel like I would be a horrible person. And again, this goes back to my people pleasing part that I had to deal with when I was younger,
Yeah.
going, I'm going to disappoint him. And then like, what then? So
God, I'm mad at you. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
having conversations like that, it doesn't sound like a normal, accessible thing.
no. And being in a non-denominational church that was very seeker friendly, didn't really talk about these intimate, like real honest things, these honest physical, emotional things I was truly experiencing that they just didn't talk about because it was too much. So I didn't even have a grid of where to even go or even approach it anymore because I got removed from the very thing that gave me this gift that I've never had before. So I'm like, I don't even know what to do now. So I just did what I did best. I picked up my big girl pants, became the adult, and found a job. And my mom up and left and did her traveling, real estate, whatever she was doing at the time to try and soothe her brokenness. Couldn't really be the mom that we needed. My younger sister rebelled horribly, and I was left with a house, a really nice house in Cedar City. And at like 18, 19 years old, I'm like, I guess I have to be an adult now, and I had to grow up because otherwise, if nobody was going to pick up the pieces, what's going to happen? So I took it upon myself to try to be the mother figure for my younger sister. She rebelled even more. Got a job to do groceries and keep the house together, try to hold like all of these together. We got involved with a church there, which actually is where my healing really started happening. I ended up getting a job at a coffee shop as the manager. But the fun thing about this coffee shop is that was actually owned by our pastor. So we had church there Sunday nights.
Wow.
Yeah, it's interesting how God sets you up, right? So he's like, he sees me as this really broken person who's too afraid to talk to him. He's like, it's okay, I'll just be gentle with you.
To you, yeah.
Yeah, I'll just come to you.
Let's hang out.
And you don't see it at the time, right? Because you're just in this funk going, whatever. I'll just deal with it and I'll just grow up because that's what you do. You deal with it and move on. That's just life. Yeah. Suck it up, cupcake. So
many words or less.
Yeah. So I get involved with this church. It was at a coffee shop called The Grind, and they were involved with a spirit-filled church back in Vegas too, and kind of started receiving everything the Holy Spirit really did and move and bringing real, true characteristics to who God was as a good father and crappy situations, and the pastor was able to love me where I was at and actually took the place of like a real father figure where my dad just couldn't. He couldn't give that what I needed at the time. It's actually
isn't that like God though too. It's like it's not always that he'll heal you. He will restore things, but he doesn't always heal, because how can you get the relationship from your father now? It's not like you can go back and miss that time, but you can still redeem it.
You
don't expect, and it's absolutely amazing how he does that.
Yeah, and you got to understand, like, this is in the most crucial time of a person, not even like a woman, but like a person's life is between the ages of like what, 16 and 21. You're trying to figure out who you are and what you're called to do in a life. And yeah, we take longer to figure it out, but later in life we're more settled in our skin. But those years, you're still looking at your parents like your rebellion, thinking, oh, I got this, I know it all. But also at the same time, you're kind of getting this rite of passage going, well, now I'm an adult. And I see that you have these other things, and I'm rocked, right? My whole world is split. I have no I have no healthy foundation with either side of my parents.
Yeah.
So I'm at a loss. I'm like, what do? I become my own parent because I have nobody there to look at.
Yeah.
Um, and
Is
so,
this when nutrition started coming up too? Like, how
well,
did you fall in love with the nutrition piece to do what you do today?
and I'll get to that. So, um, I was still anorexic at the time, and in this process, they had a prophetic person come to the service, and he called me out and started speaking life to me, speaking the gold out, and like calling out these qualities that I've still had that weren't really spoken into existing yet, and said, "This is who you are," blah 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 blah, and helped me change. And they also did praying for healings and mental, spiritual, all the things. So I'm like, I don't want to be this way anymore. I'm tired. Like I want to enjoy food and not feel like I have to work it off to have this whatever. And so they prayed for me, and within an instant I was healed of anorexia. Like
Wow.
I can't explain other than it felt like got my brain had a chiropractic adjustment. Like whatever was out of joint got popped back into place.
Yeah.
Now, did I still deal with control issues? Absolutely. But that portion, no. Um, that was my the beginning of my journey. That
Wow.
was also when I met my husband. He was also in a really unhealthy state too. So we kind of met each other at the worst part of our lives and then kind of grew into better. So I mean, that's
Yeah.
a whole nother story for a whole nother time. But we met up in Cedar City, and then I left first to back to Vegas, and then he followed, and then we got married in 2008. So I moved up to Cedar City at like 2006, 7, and then moved out and got married in like 2008 in Vegas. So my real love for, I would probably say then is when it did, is because I got that portion healed.
Like now
Realizing,
what, right? Like I'm
yeah,
delivered from this debilitating addiction, right?
yeah,
Now, what do I do with all that time, energy, focus? Like
yeah.
that's gone, but now I have a huge gap to fill here.
Yeah, so being raised in an Eastern European family, on both sides, my mother's mother and my dad's mother, love of food. Our family grew up around the kitchen table. I grew up cooking with my grandmother. Every dinner was sat down at the table. You did not eat by yourself. You did not eat in front of the TV. It's just not what it was.
Yeah.
So I still have that core value of family does food. Like that's just what you do to love people. And I'm like, okay, this is what I like. Okay, I'm gonna feed people when they're around. So friends would come over, I'd make dinner. Daniel, when we started dating, I would make him desserts, and just like this, it just felt normal for
Wow.
me to be able to be like, this is now the part of healing now I'm nourishing, right? So I'm not even too worried about the health behind it. I was always a healthy eater. I always listened to my body. Even since I was little, my mom will tell stories of how I would choose broccoli over like meatloaf any day.
Yeah.
Still would to this day because meatloaf is disgusting in my opinion. But
I would chant for beats, so I match you in this weirdness.
but so I'll fast forward a little bit. I was in a law office job and I just hated my life. I mean, this is stupid. Housing bubble burst. We were looking for a house, didn't work out, had to move in with Daniel's parents. I'm like, I'm done. Like, I love food. I love watching the food channel. I love doing all this. I know that I have some food issues that my stomach just doesn't like. And I want to be able to cater to people who also have the same issues I do. Gluten intolerance, dairy intolerance, some other stuff. And that also has to do with trauma from being anorexic and all this stuff, and my body just healed. And I just chose to not eat that way because I knew how it made me feel.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I'm gonna go to culinary school. So on a whim, Daniel, we're living with his
Wow.
parents, and I decide to go to culinary school. Start there, and then we end up finding a place and moving out and getting our own place. And I ended up getting pregnant with our first daughter and graduating 8.5 months pregnant with our first daughter in
Wow.
culinary school. But it was such a fun time because it brought me back to childhood moments when I would cook and feel that comfort. So it gave me that comfort of knowing this is what feels normal. This is how it should be to be able to nourish your body with real food.
Wow.
And it felt home. Now, did I follow through with that and get a job surrounding it? No.
Yeah.
I ended up going to Starbucks being a shift supervisor, and because I've always been drawn to people, like somehow these two things have to intertwine.
Yeah.
Um, when
So
I got
what stopped you after like these beautiful moments when you're, in culinary school and you're like, I love this, home is being restored in a way that I didn't expect, and no,
yeah,
honestly, I'm not going to continue this.
I saw what it did professionally to some of my friends and other people. So it's a very vicious dog eat dog world. It's very competitive. And I had a moment with the Lord in this whole process going, I could have a family and be a mom, or I could have a career.
Hmm.
And there was something in me that just wasn't willing to sacrifice my family for career when I watched what my parents did for me and my sister. They did the
Yeah.
best they could. They did the best. Like I will never hold that against them. Um, but having said that, I'm not willing to repeat that with my own family. I'm like, God, if you say that you're good and all this, there's going to be a way that I can do what I'm passionate about and still have family. And so I took a minute and I actually had our daughter, and I got a job being like a manager at a little boutique clothing store in the district in Green Valley for a while. And then my older sister still lived in Vegas, and she's like, hey, I work as a manager and a shift supervisor at Starbucks. You like people and coffee. Why don't you do that too? And I'm like, it pays more, so why not?
Yeah.
So applied and got it and fell in love. I was around food and coffee and people, and it just felt at home because that's where I was in Cedar City. That's where I really met Jesus in Cedar City too, is I managed a coffee shop. I was around coffee and people and food all the time. So it
Yeah.
just felt normal.
Yeah.
Um, and of course what came with it is benefits and pay. Like that's just normal stuff that you have to have that stuff to survive, especially when you're bringing little people into the world. Like
Yeah.
these things still don't shift from your mind.
Totally.
Um, but that eventually really changed as I had more kids. I had three of my four kids while I was involved with Starbucks. But towards the end, I actually hemorrhaged with my second son and lost a lot of blood. Stayed home because I delivered them all at home. Probably should have gone to the hospital and got a blood transfusion, but my midwife was amazing, stopped it with Pitocin, and we built up my blood naturally at home. So I mean, there was a lot of that's a whole nother conversation with home birth that I'm super passionate about that I can go into, but save
Yeah.
that for another time too. So if anybody wants to ask me about that, that's a whole other thing. Um, did a lot of research, knew what was safe for me, knew what I could handle, fell in love with it.
Mm.
And so, but knowing what my body went through, I was 24 when I had my first one, and then 26, 27 when I had my second. So you get a little older, your body changes. And I unfortunately I can pinpoint back when my health started declining and weird things started happening after I hemorrhaged with my son. So that brought me on to a whole new deeper intimacy with God and asking him like, why is my body doing these weird things? Like why, what happened? Nobody talked to me about these things. How can I like how can I bring reconciliation to why I'm doing this? I thought I was doing all the right stuff, but my body's still acting this way. And I'm like, I'm tired of taking antibiotics. I'm tired of taking all these supplements. What am I gonna do? And I quit Starbucks because there was just so much stress surrounding that as well. I was having more kids. The kind of hours they were asking me just weren't sustainable. Daniel's job was different. And I'm like, God just said you're good, so I'm just gonna quit. And there was a opening with my midwife. I ended up becoming her office manager. And that gave me the ability to really help support somebody who I loved and I believed in and be a part of something I was super passionate about, but also take time to learn my body, learn what was healthy for me to recover from having kids, to be sustained as a mom and still have a full-time job, to be healthier after postpartum, to help these other moms. And I found myself when I was I would design events for her to bring together the community of the moms, postpartum, prenatal, all these things. And I found myself just thinking of catering food. I'm like,
Mm.
well, what brings people the most joy? What brings people's vulnerabilities out and their walls down? It's food. So I went on this researching journey and just something clicked. And I'm like, there's so much healing stuff even with food.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And just like being mindful of when you're hungry, when you're not. Do you have a good relationship with food? If not, why? Like all this, something else started just like rolling up inside of me, and I just became super passionate about it because I was dealing my own health journey. Where
Yeah.
why am I not getting well? Why am I not the way I was? Why is my hair falling out? Why am I so tired? Why is my skin doing weird stuff? Like all these things. And being quiet before God, and even getting these little like whispers going, hey, look this up. And I'm like, I've never even heard about that in my life. Not
Yeah.
anybody telling me this, but like I'll be quiet with God, just sitting and praying or reading the Bible, and I'll have this thought go across my mind, look up this disease, look up this iron deficiency, look up this nutrient deficiency, look up this with this. And I'm like,
Yeah.
this all makes sense. And so I mean, my passion just kind of grew from there. So probably about 2017 is when I really became super passionate about nutrition and realizing the holistic part of it and how it all intertwines. Being really mindful of what you're eating, when you're eating it, um, how you prepare certain things, what your body works best with, what it doesn't work best with. Eating raw vegetables isn't the best for people. Sometimes you need to cook them. Actually, some foods you actually need to cook to get the most nutrient density out of it, and you're actually doing more harm eating it raw, and like all these different things that just blew my mind. I'm like, holy moly, this is wild. This is a whole another thing, and it's
Yeah.
a game changer.
Totally.
Like you don't need all this medication to feel better. You can pinpoint these things and start whittling it down. Now, do you need it sometimes to help with chronic issues? Absolutely. I'm not against Western medicine. I'm on thyroid medication myself. So that was a whole other story too, where I really fought the Lord on that too. And he's like, your body needs that to be able to heal right now, to be able to get you to a place of where we can find the root cause of it to be able to heal. And that's where I'm on my journey now, is finding the root cause of some other health issues that I'm having.
Can you share
Um,
some of the initial ones that you started to experience where he was like
yeah.
telling you to look up something and then like you actually felt that change happen?
Yeah. So the big thing for me was I am Czechoslovakian, right? So I'm a very hairy person by nature. And my hair thickness and just amount of it was very important to me because it shows health. I know that your hair, skin, and nails are the first thing to go when you have something issues with your body. There's something internally in me that I knew without me knowing.
Yeah.
So when my hair started falling out, I'm like, I heard of postpartum hair loss. That was fine, whatever, experienced it, but I never started getting it back, especially after I did get it back after my first, but after my second, after I hemorrhaged with him, things just weren't lining up. Um, and my body wasn't, I was tired a little bit more often. Yeah, you have a newborn too, like, and you're working weird jobs, it's fine. A lot of that played into it, but the thing that really threw me off was my hair loss, just coming out in clumps, my eyebrows thinning out more, my skin being very dry, and I'm like being constipated more, and I'm like, this is not normal for me. Like, what is happening?
Yeah.
And it also was very difficult for me to get pregnant with and by very difficult, let me rephrase this because it's very, I don't want to sound insensitive to people who have a hard time getting pregnant. That's not what I'm saying, because there is a real issue, and that's a hard thing to come by. For me, I was very fertile, very easy to get pregnant. I had unprotected sex once, got pregnant, boom, done, my first two, very easy. So that was my assumption with my third. Well, having high stress from work, Daniel's job changing, hemorrhaging, having an umbilical hernia correction, like all these things happening, it took me almost a year to get pregnant with my third, with my daughter. And we were very intentional about it. And that was emotionally really hard for me because I'm like, why am I having such a hard time getting pregnant with her? There should be no reason why I'm having such a hard time getting pregnant with her.
Mm.
But the foggy brain, I started having a really foggy brain. Again, hair thinning out, um, just having trouble sleeping, and I'm like, there's just something off. I knew in my gut something was off, and I just didn't know. So finally get pregnant with Eleanor, and we're driving to California to see my mom. I'm probably about like 3 months pregnant. And we're driving along the canyon, and I feel like the Lord says to me, and I hear this audible thing in my voice, look up Hashimoto's. What the heck is Hashimoto's? I'm like, I don't even know what that is. I mean, I heard my sister mention it once because she said that she had it. I'm like, but I don't know anything about it. Like, what the heck is that? So I look it up, and sure as crap, like all the symptoms I'm feeling,
Wow.
everything matched it. And I'm like, so I get back from that trip, and I have my midwife run labs to confirm all these things, and it's showing hypothyroidism, which is on the road to Hashimoto's. But when you're pregnant, your body, it's interesting, the fetus will send out these stem cells to be able to heal the mom's body. So this is why a lot of moms don't experience autoimmune diseases when they're pregnant, when they don't experience like all these chronic illnesses, because your body gets healed by your baby.
Wow.
It's the wildest thing. It's wild. So my midwife got diagnosed with Hashimoto. So she's like, oh, I know this. So let's just keep an eye on it. We'll support you the best we can. And after you have her, let's test. And my body started showing signs, and it tested positive for antibodies for all these thyroid issues. I'm like, this is wild. And so that sent me on a really big journey as to how can I heal this naturally? Because I don't want to take medication. I don't feel like I needed to. And I did get it into remission for a while. And then just stress and life happened, and I got so angry with God. I'm like, you promised me you would give me all my hair back. You promised me you would restore all this stuff. You promised me all these things. Why am I not seeing it? And I'm like, I don't want to take medication. And finally, it's just so kind. Like when I'm sleeping, he's like, you can go on medication. It doesn't mean I'm not going to heal you. Your body just needs a little extra help. So let's just do this together. I'm like, but you're supposed to do these miracles and these wild things and just heal people. It's like, I'm healing you. You need to do it my way. And I'm like, okay. And I broke down. I took thyroid medication, and it helped tremendously. And then I went into remission, and it went away right before I got pregnant with my last. And so like it healed. I even got it confirmed. Like God gave me a brand new thyroid, confirmed it with an ultrasound from the person I was seeing, from all these nutritional things that I was doing, and with help from thyroid medication, but I weaned it down to the lowest dose you could go.
What were some of those things that you were doing?
So I changed my diet. I was plant-based, but I had to look back and say, when did I feel my best? And it was when I was eating no grains, no dairy, no soy. So what people will call the paleo diet. Okay. With addition of like black beans and like sweet potatoes. There are certain things that I was able to tell. I've become so in tune with how my body feels. I can tell what doesn't work.
Like don't take the sweet potatoes.
Oh no, that's my like lifestyle. I can't. I eat that with like in the morning for breakfast. Like, like don't take those away from me.
I know.
No, it's just I feel like I have this gift to be able to intuitively know what my body doesn't need. Like I can automatically be like, oh my gosh, I'm zinc deficient. And I just know that's just what I am. And then I'll have a blood test and it confirms it. I just know before any of these things confirm. It's just something I've been gifted to be. I've found that I'm gifted to be able to do. I can automatically. And when I listen to somebody, about more times than not, I can tell them like, oh, there's a root cause, but this is causing this deficiency. Like I just know.
Yeah.
And that led me on a journey of getting my nutritional certification. So that way I had this training behind me to give people the ability to see, hey, I'm invested in myself. I'm also invested in you, but also that it was in line with this gift that I know I have.
And because this was all coming to surface when you were the office manager?
When I was an office manager at Sweet Beginnings. Yeah. When I was pregnant with, after I just got done being pregnant and having Eleanor. So 2018, and then getting pregnant with my son in 2019. Okay. So
you're seeing like this condition just leave, and then you're changing your diet completely, and you're seeing maybe
and I add in
go away and other benefits start to happen.
Yeah. So I see how not to change a diet, but like adding certain supplements in. Okay. Change of lifestyle, like how I manage stress, and putting up boundaries, saying yes to things and no to things, taking a holistic approach to it, knowing that I have to be able to manage myself better in order to be my best self, to be here for these people that I've dedicated my life to. So that was a whole journey in and of itself, because I'm not used to boundaries. I'm used to saying yes and people pleasing. And that was something that I was really dealt with in this whole journey, as well as learning how to be comfortable with who I am. And it was weird, because I remember specifically on my 30th birthday, it was like that day, all of a sudden I woke up and I'm like, I feel really comfortable being me. Oh my gosh, I'm really okay with just being myself and who I am. And like that people pleasing thing was gone. I don't know, like the Lord was so kind. Just I woke up on my 30th birthday and I'm like, it was gone. I didn't care about people pleasing anymore, and I was able to heal from those like rejection wounds and stuff like that. And am I still working through that? Absolutely. Like he's still bringing things up for me, especially in this past season,
Hmm.
on a deeper level. But that main hold was just gone, and it was the most freeing, wild thing I've ever experienced in my life. And I
Yeah.
was able to make decisions based on that instead of trying to please everybody around me. And that even meant my kids and my husband as well.
Yeah.
Like
And
putting
what a
my
gift
house,
too, because that changes the entire chemistry and
yeah.
energy in your body also.
Oh, absolutely. Like my cortisol was out the roof. And now like when
Yes.
I just had it retested, it was like really low. And it's because of stress. It's chronic stress will do that to your body. And it's
Well, and all
interesting.
the extra energy it takes to
Yeah.
be thinking through how to please somebody that you can't ultimately please. Like that's a lot of energy.
It's so much energy and you don't realize you give yourself. Like
Yeah,
you literally give yourself.
sure.
Now, am I for like the whole movement of, oh, do you self-love? Yes, to an extent. Like you still have to be mindful. We're not here just to please ourselves and to self-care ourselves all day long. There's a bigger purpose to everything we do, right? I'm not here to just keep this information that I'm learning to myself. I'm here to learn, yes, to better myself, absolutely, because my life is going to show fruit of how I can help you.
Yeah.
So,
When did that shift happen? Like, okay, so you're working, you're seeing all these changes. Now you're starting to see not just suffering and all the confusion, but now God is answering and moving in different ways. Like he's giving
yeah,
you wisdom, you're following through, it's lining up. He keeps giving you these answers. It's almost like you're on this like treasure hunt with him.
yeah, absolutely.
Shift where you're like, oh, I have to give this to all the humans, right? Like where
Yeah.
did it turn into this passion and career for you
Well, it honestly
or
helps.
mission?
Yeah. 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 So it actually happened with my kids, to be honest, because they're my closest people.
Yeah.
And they're not as stubborn as like your husband, who's like, yeah, I'll do it, but then I won't do it. But he had a peptic ulcer of what I was able to heal through supplements and food.
Wow.
And so, and lifestyle change. Now, did he follow through with it? Does he still have issues? Yes. But I mean, but the fact to see that I was able to give him this protocol and he did it and it healed it and we didn't have to take like all these antacids and everything, that was huge. That was around the time that Ezra was born, my second born. So that was around 2015.
Okay.
So it was just these little treasure things. I'm like, oh my gosh, like
Yeah.
this really does work.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's not weird voodoo crunchy crap that people talk about, although I am pretty crunchy. Um, it's not weird. Like there's no weird stigma behind it. I think if you realize that God made your body a specific way
Yeah.
and he made the things of the earth to be able to sustain you for a reason, then yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, it doesn't have to be weird. People have made it weird. People have partnered it with the demonic and the enemy's side, like the devil's side, and have tweaked it and perversed it, and use it for evil, not for good. But to throw everything out, like throw the baby out with the bathwater, is like spitting in a good father's face, saying this isn't good enough. Like, why not take it back and redeem it? Like, why not take Chinese medicine back and realize that there are some amazing things that they do with herbs and like pressure points that are for real, for real. I took pressure points for my kids, and I was at the like end of my rope going, God, I'm so done giving them ibuprofen and for all like teething and for headaches like, and for fevers. Like what can I do? I need to number one know when it's bad and when it's not, when to go to a doctor, when not, and then what can I do? So then he led me on this journey of like, well, try pressure points. Like something just came to me. Like I had my moment of pressure point thought, and I'm like, okay, let me just look it up. Thank you, Dr. Google. So look up on Google like pressure points for constipation, for fever, for teething, and I started doing it on their feet, and I brought down my kids' fever by like a point and a half by doing pressure points.
Fascinating. Wow.
I'm like, holy crap, like just enough to make them not uncomfortable anymore. So now, do I sometimes give my kids ibuprofen and all that stuff when it's like high? Absolutely. I don't let my kids suffer. I don't let myself suffer. Like, let me put it back this way. I'm getting better at not letting myself suffer because I have a stubbornness side of me of being like, no, you can do it naturally. But then sometimes my body's like, try again. So, and that again comes with depleting topsoil and just how foods are produced now and over vaccination and over antibiotic. Like, there's so many things that I'm seeing now revealed to me that were done in the 90s and the 80s that they did the best they could. They weren't informed as much as we are now. And
Yeah.
so unfortunately, our bodies are now in our generation are dealing with it, but we're able to reverse that stuff and do the more sustainable things. We're choosing to make these better choices for our kids and other generations.
Yeah.
And I really believe there's this movement now of it's almost over information. So everybody's almost too informed, which can be a problem in and of itself as well.
So is
Uh,
that where you feel like you kind of come into? Like, where do you specialize? Like, if somebody doesn't know you on the street and you're like obsessed with nutrition and have this mission to like save their life, right?
yeah.
Or just make it way better so they can thrive, like, how would they know you? Or like, what do you actually, what's the journey you take them on?
Yeah, so my whole passion is getting this person in tune with their body. So what I mean by that, I mean listening to yourself to know what you need when you need it. Because I know that's what I'm really good at doing for myself.
Mm.
I know when I need to do a juice cleanse. I know when I need to drink more water. I know when I need to go to bed and have like better sleep. I know when I'm B12 deficient. Like there's these things that I'm able to feel
Yeah.
in my body and to recognize symptom wise, brain fog, stuffy nose, like that I'm able to just naturally figure out to be able to in tune know, oh my gosh, okay, I ate something that's giving me a postnasal drip nose, right? Like I need to go back and look. And so kind of give them a structure on, well, what's your body saying right now? And let's go back on a journey. Did you journal? Like I love giving people journals and to journal what they're eating, what they're eating, when they're eating it, how they're feeling before and after, how they're feeling during. And so you have this holistic view surrounding of just your food, because then you get to see what my relationship is. Do I have an intolerance? Do I have a reaction? And it all, I've learned that it all really boils down to the gut. And so my second passion is the gut. Like gut health is huge to me because that is literally where everything, everything sits. I mean, even in the Bible, when they talk about feeling and loving, it's from the gut.
Yeah.
So, like from the heart, when they say the heart, they mean like the center of their being, they mean their bowels. So, even taking it on a very interpretive journey that way, when you really break it down, that's what they're talking about. I'm like, in your gut is also called your second brain for a reason. There are neurons that are in there that are actually connected to your brain. That's where all your immunities are built. That's where like so many things happen. So that's my passion, is to really get people in tune with their own body and to understand why they have this relationship that they do, and to see when something isn't working and how to change it. And also go down to say, okay, well, is your gut healthy? Are you holding something there that needs to be released to be able to receive that? And am I a doctor? No, not even close. Do I have a passion for the body? Yeah. I can give advice and I can give suggestions, but at the end of the day, if something is really off, please go see a practitioner.
Yeah.
Like that's also what I tell people. I'm like, I can give you suggestions and I can coach you, but I am not a doctor. I don't know all the medicine behind it. And sometimes you just need to go and just get your
Who
blood
is
work done.
really a good fit to connect with you? Are they recognizing that maybe God is giving them signs too, or are they recognizing that the issues they have just some sort of sense that it's food related, right? Like, how would they know to come work with you or that they're a great fit for you? And then what would do you take them on a process for a period
Yeah,
of
so I think the person who is just they're at a place where they're like, I just need to get better. Like I know that I'm at the end of my rope and I know there's something more and I just want to be a healthier me.
yeah,
And they have to be really serious about it, because some people will be like, oh yeah, cool, I'll do that, but I don't want to waste your time and I don't want you to waste mine because my time is precious as well. If you're
yeah.
not going to follow through with these protocols and these things that I suggest to help you, to coach you to get your mind right and to be able to have your relationship fixed with God, yourself, and like food situations, then it's just going to be a waste and you're going to be going down this circle over and over and over again. So it has
Almost
to,
like spiritual nutrition.
yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Because I we're spirit, soul, and body, right? We're three parts.
Yeah.
And I know people are on different journeys in different parts of their journey. But you can't you can be healthy, but you're not going to be full until everything is really aligned.
Mhm.
Um, you can be spiritually in tune with God, but physically unhealthy. Hello, me, anorexia. And that deals with your emotions. Like there's everything's tied in together.
Yeah.
So, I really, I helped somebody who had a really hard time emotionally, and they were just tired of not being able to eat anything and getting a stomach ache all the time. And I helped her to heal her gut and
Yeah.
get her back to a place where she was super healthy. And if when she got sick again and felt out of balance, she went back to the protocol I gave her, and her stomach aligned again. And that goes with journaling and spending time and putting boundaries up and everything. So I don't just approach the situation with just food. I approach it in a holistic view of what is going on all together. So more of a coaching situation. What's going on all together, so that way we can really give you the optimal ability to heal well, and give you the best way of living. So that way you have these tools. So when the stressful situations come again, because they will, that you have something to go back to and realize I was doing so well then. Where along the line did I fall off? Okay, let's go back to what I know was working.
Yeah.
And my goal is not to stay with you forever. It's to give you these tools to watch you thrive, and how then from that point on, I know enough about my body to be able to help myself and help those people around me. So duplicating myself is always the best thing, because you don't ever want to be the only you, right? I mean, it doesn't make sense. It's not productive. It's not even what the Bible says. It says go make disciples of all nations, not of your next door neighbor.
Yeah.
So I mean, of course your next door neighbor, but it's always with multiplication. So I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, no, I'm just thinking, like, do you specialize with nutrition for after recovery from eating disorders or for postpartum or like these significant events in your own life? Do you focus on those areas or
I
just
have, yeah, so I have a huge passion for moms that are busy moms, like, because that's who I relate to. That's who I am. I have 4 kids ranging from ages 11 to 2.
yeah,
So um just knowing the stress of that, and knowing what you can and cannot do and being okay with that. So my specialty is with women who have had kids and are in that stage of postpartum. I do love working with pregnant moms, but I'm not pregnant anymore, and I don't relate to that as much as I did before. I can do it. I still have a passion to watch people be super duper healthy.
yeah.
Um, but my specialty really lies for women and gut health, and just moms in particular. So
I just love this concept too, just bringing like healthy meals back into the home, right?
yeah, it
Like, do you
makes it
bring
makes a
your chef
difference.
skills into this too?
Look, my husband's mad that I don't bring them more in, because he's like, I should be 500 pounds by now. And I go, and that's why I don't bring them in, because you
Right.
have self-control with cheesecake. So
I
no,
lost a
I'm not.
tooth in cheesecake. Who does that?
Who does that?
Who's that little kid?
I mean, it's been beautiful to watch my kids. Like, for example, last night, my oldest daughter wanted to make donuts.
Yeah.
So I bought the ingredients for her to make baked donuts, and they were allergen free for everybody to be able to eat. So being
That
able
full circle moment too, from what you
to,
were just talking about earlier, about how God was going to bring family back into your home and about how these elements that matter so much to you, you just made it like a casual thing. We just made donuts, but that's actually a huge thing that took
yeah.
you to get to.
Well, and I had to overcome my controlling thing, where I'm like, I'll make them get out of the kitchen, because I do have those moments where I'm like, you need to just leave, because it's my zen place, it's my happy place, it's where I'm able to just focus. But also at the same time, I'm like, they're not going to learn if I don't let them get in here. But if I let them get in here, I have to leave, because it's going to be a hot mess, and I can't do the hot mess. So I clean up as I go, and they do not, and it drives me nuts. So I mean, there's still these things that bug the crap out of me, and I've had to learn how to be okay with it, because they're never going to learn if they're not allowed in there. So even my 2-year-old, he'll get a little stool, come up and goes, I help cut, and I'll be cutting a pepper. So I put his hand on the handle of my knife, and I'll cut with the knife. But just those little things of just teaching them healthy, because again, that's just what I know best right now, is because I'm with my family 24/7. I'm in a season of a young family, and my heart and my time right now is to pour out into my kids, because there's going to be a time sooner than later where they're going to be on their own. And then I'll have the time to go travel and see different things that I am passionate about. But right now, I'm in a season of reprioritizing, and it's humbling and it's hard for me because I am a go, go, go person, but knowing that I'm teaching them very practical life skills that they'll have. Like next will be laundry we will be tackling, but right now we can do donuts. So that in and of itself is very comforting, and I know what I'm doing and I'm doing well, and so I'm able to duplicate that and show people. I'm like, you just got to give it a chance, and pretty much at the end of the day you put yourself at the back and be like, okay, I have no control over this. I don't have control. I have control over keeping the safety within this situation, but if they don't make a mess here, they're not going to feel safe making a mess. Like, I'd rather than make a mess here in the safety of my home than getting out into the real world, having an issue and then it blowing up and them not knowing how to deal with it. So bringing it back to food, I let them choose. I'm like, hey, what are we going to do tonight? For some nights, but then other nights I have a meal plan, and I try to find a way to get everybody involved. But some days I'm just like, I'm doing it. Please leave the kitchen.
Yeah.
If we're being real for a second. But
well, what's fascinating about this too is just like how God has brought you on this journey that you could have never seen happen. It looks like almost on your journey, like you're moving here, you're getting involved in this, and like any of it doesn't make sense, right? But now to be in this place where you are, you've shared with me before, like you have this beautiful restoration with your mother now. You're creating this family that like you didn't come from, so you didn't even see it to know how to create it, but God is helping you create it. Yeah. Taking something that you were so passionate about, allowing it to be a mission or a purpose to serve other people. Yeah. It's absolutely insane. And it's just a testimony of how you kept going and kept choosing to seek him in those seasons too. I just can't even imagine how it would have fallen into place like it has now.
Yeah. Well, it's wild too, because I honestly cut out so much. There's so many other things that happened where it's like I was down. I'm like, God, I just want to quit. Like I had this point of like, when I was in postpartum depression, that's how I also knew there was something wrong with my body, is because I've never after I had my son, I hit real hard postpartum depression. I've never experienced that in my life. I'm like, I just want to quit. Like, I just don't even know why I'm doing this. And that was also like an alarm bell in my mind going, there's something off. Yeah. Because I'm not that person. I'm not a quitter. Like, you give me a situation, I'm going to go after it. And even if I hit those walls, I'm going to break through, hence the name Wrecking Ball. And even sometimes to my like dismay, but that when I saw those things happen, I'm like, that's not who I am. Now, have I had a softer side now after having kids and now being in my mid to late 30s? And yeah, a lot of things have changed. But I'm still am who I am. And I know my deep core character, and when it's not showing, that I know there's something off too. So I mean, it's just this deep journey. But yeah, a lot of things really hard and also beautiful happening. I mean, restoration with my mom, restoration in my marriage, restoration with my dad, my older sister, like these wild things that I just prayed for a very long time. I do remember this very specific time when I first met the Lord in junior high and I got saved. I remember praying, and I remember hearing what I felt like God was saying, going, I'm going to give you your entire family, not just your kids, but your parents in previous generations. And I'm like, that's odd, because I was really the first one to come to know God in my family. But I never even dreamt about kids or even about my wedding or my wedding. Like, that was never on my radar. Even when I was little, I'm like, I don't care about that stuff. I'm going to go live in the ocean with dolphins. Like, I just don't care. I wanted to be a marine biologist surrounded by animals. Kids were not on my thing. My younger sister was the one with kids. And then all of a sudden I'm the one with 4 kids and my sisters don't have kids. I mean, my older sister has 1, but she could care less about people. So it's just wild to see how things line up. And I'm like, and then being called out as like a mom to people. Like, I've gotten prophetic words about being a mom to the nations and a mom to people, and just seeing how people come to me and treat me. They're like, hey, and they confide in me, and I'm like a mom. And it's mind-blowing, because I don't go seek that out. And sometimes I'm just like, I don't want to be around people right now, but you need something.
Sometimes that's how you know it's God, right? Because it's not something that you would have pushed for, but it's something that keeps evolving and that you keep getting validated. And the more you keep following it, the doors open, right? Like, there's just a path that he clearly has you on. And it's totally beautiful to hear where you are, because it's been a lot of hard won lessons and pain and prayers that took you a long time to get to, but now you're in it. So it's just so fascinating that that part of you is like, I want to get out of this, but God's like, no, 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 we worked really hard to get you here. So we need you to sit in it for a minute.
I'm ready to move on now. What's the next thing? And he's like, no, no, you're going to stand knee deep in this for a minute. I'm like, okay. But it's like, it all comes down to it. My house, I've always prayed as a place of like safety and where people actually really meet the Lord. And whenever people come in here, I always end up making dinner and we end up sharing a meal and they all like, just all these things come down. And I'm like, there's something beautiful about the table. And amazing woman whose name was Debbie Titus. She passed away this past year with cancer, but she wrote a whole book about being a hostess of the table. And like, if you look in the Bible, in the temple, that was literally what was before the throne, was a table with utensils and chairs and like for things to be eaten. So, I mean, there's something beautiful about that. And I know there's more to it because I'm like, okay, God, obviously we didn't have like medical things back in the garden or when the fall happened. So what do? They used herbs and stuff around them to help with medicinal purposes. So, I mean, and I've always been fascinated with the body. I come from a medical background with my family. And so it's always been something that just come here. So to know that I have that ability to pass it on to people around me, include like, especially my kids, I hope and pray that it gives people a step up from what I was dealt. And so that's
already
just
happening.
It's just the whole goal of it. I mean, it's not to keep it to myself, it's to be able to help everybody around me. You ask me for help, I am the worst. Like, I'm not going to charge you. I'm just going to give you the information. You want me to give it to you? Here it is. Like, people have yelled at me, like, why aren't you charging? I'm like, because they just need help. Like, I don't know. Here, I have another job right now. So, I mean, I don't really need the money, but here you go. So it's just, my heart is to help people. And it's always been that way. So
I love. So tell us what you're up to now, what God is doing, and then how people can connect with you.
Yeah, so I am just relaxing and taking the season slow.
Much deserved.
Yeah, almost forced upon, to be really honest. Again, all the health issues finally came to a head. Emotional things that I allowed God to work through me are coming through physically now. So, going on a journey of communion with him every day, like literally taking communion every day and doing body work and emotional release and seeing things work out. But I needed to be in a quiet time of not working and to be able to do that. So I don't have a job right now per se. There may be some stuff on the horizon, but I'm taking it slow, probably until the end of this month. It'll be about a 60-day sabbatical that I've taken to just really be still and to get healthy emotionally, spiritually, and physically. I can't help other people if I'm not living that life, if I'm not showing the fruit of it. So I couldn't do it consciously without my conscious being like, excuse me, you're preaching, but you're not doing what you're preaching. So I'm not the one to do that. Yeah, I'm not the one to do that. I'm going to do the hard work. If I expect you to do it, I'm going to do it. So just living my best life, being a mom and being still and, just seeing what God has for me. And then I'm always accessible through Facebook Messenger. I took a break from social media for quite a while. I felt like I needed to do that. I felt like the Lord was telling me to take a step back for a while. But I'm always accessible through Facebook Messenger. So you just look up Stephanie Rounds and then private message me, and I'm very accessible that way.
And you'll take all things questions, postpartum, raising kids, nutrition.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yep. If anything, you want me to pray for you? Yeah, absolutely. Want me to hear what God's saying to you? Then yeah, absolutely. Whatever you need at this point, I am more than welcome to just love on you the way that I feel like the Lord's needing to love on you. So yeah.
So good. Well, I am so grateful that you've shared a little bit of your life, your journey, your story with us. I'm sure so many people can be encouraged by the subtleties of God, the questions that we face, navigating different seasons, trying to like unpack your pain or even figure out how to talk to him, how to listen to him. It's so much. And I think that we could have unpacked so many things through your story, your wealth of wisdom and knowledge. So I just want to honor you and thank you for sharing with everybody today. So grateful for you.
Well, honestly, thank you. I'm super honored and I don't take this lightly. And it was very stretching for me to be that vulnerable, but there is honestly so much more that I wish I could share. And I'm, like I said, I'm open to answering any questions. And hopefully maybe there's a time where I can just unpack some more. So we'll see.
Yes. Only good things. The best is
Only
yet
good
to
things.
come. Listen, if you are not plugged into Courage Co yet, what are you doing? Courage Co is a faith-based community off social media that you can access from your phone or your desktop, literally from anywhere. It is a safe place and a sacred space for you to invest in and live your most courageous and impactful story. You can join us for free for prayer calls and challenges, for a monthly subscription where we have monthly masterclasses, or the God's Vibes Mastermind, where you will get live master life coaching at a price that you won't get anywhere else. 12 weeks of content that we will go through together, or you can navigate at your own pace. You'll have lifetime access to that. A community of women doing this alongside of you, a workbook, and so many other materials to help you on your journey. And I just want you to imagine for a second, having the courage, clarity, and focus to achieve anything you desire. Walking into any situation fully confident, knowing you have everything you need to succeed. Embracing challenges and overcoming obstacles with grace and ease. Feeling only love and compassion for others, no matter how they may have hurt you in the past. Standing up for what you believe in and taking unstoppable action to create the kind of world you want to live in. You're in the right place to take your next step on your journey. When you plug into the God's Vibes Mastermind, I'll teach you how to identify and eliminate the self-limiting beliefs and habits that are stopping you from getting the results you want. I'll teach you how to heal old wounds that have negatively impacted your self-image and self-esteem for far too long. I'll show you how to dismantle the story of who you are and what you can or cannot do in the world. I'll help you expand your consciousness from fear-based limitation to love and compassion and service to the world. I'll help you vanquish the inner enemies that are stopping you from being all that you can be. Release your victimhood and reclaim your power. Develop a aligned mindset and habits to boost your productivity and results. Gain deeper awareness of your own inner light and divinity, and achieve the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual self-mastery needed to achieve any goal. You will learn how to think the way God formed, shaped, and anointed you to think, and succeed the way He always intended, and show up in any situation as the most powerful person in the room, no matter what challenges might appear on your path. If this sounds like something that you want to be a part of, I want to invite you to join the God's Vibes Mastermind. You can get plugged into it over at Courage Co. You can access Courage Co at any level at www.courageco.org. Together, we will awaken your inner warrior spirit and unleash your capacity to achieve any goal you can imagine. You will become an example of what's possible with God.